questions you might have as you go. So handing over to you.
Fantastic. Well, welcome everybody. It's lovely to see so many people here this morning. As we've mentioned a couple of times now, if you have any questions as this kind of goes forward, then please do use the Q&A panel, and we will respond to those. Either I'll respond to them in live, or Simon will respond to them by text. This session is being recorded, so it will be available for consultation later on if you want to go back and check anything. And of course, you'll always be able to reach us via email and phone if you have any other questions after the session. Should we move into our move into the next slide? Yeah. So this is just a little bit about me. My name is David. I completed my PhD in other studies at the University of Oxford, and taught there at the Universities of York and at the University of York and at University College Cork for a combined total of around 10 years, as well as giving working and presenting in an academic capacity for that time. I am working as an admissions officer for Oxford Summer Courses, which is how I'm speaking to you today, and the capacity I'm speaking to you today. And I also do some tutoring for Oxford Summer Courses and for the online sister company Melio, which offers online courses to students all year round. And I teach specifically in English and creative writing. And so I'm here today to basically give you some information on our courses, to help answer any questions, respond to any queries and concerns you might have. And then later on, I'll be one of the team that helps guide students through the application process, and ensure that they have the kind of smoothest possible experience of coming to join us in the summer. So I said that's probably a good point to move on to the next slide, Simon. Thank you. So this is just a quick overview of what we're going to be looking at today. I'll be introducing a little bit about Oxford Summer Courses, who we are, what our goals are, what we aim to offer as a service, and then the kind of some of the nitty gritty of our program, the timetable, subjects and locations, and the kind of activities and the social and cultural side of things as well, because we try and provide, we provide a kind of a carefully tailored balance between in-depth academic work and also social and cultural enrichment, so that this is a balanced program for students who are, after all, giving up some of their summer break to come and work with us. So we want to get them the most out of it academically, and also the most out of it socially and culturally. We'll talk a little bit about what we can offer our students and the experiences, the positive experiences that they've had. And then, of course, the details of what you can expect to be included in the course fees, and what we provide, along with the education as our students come to us. Then a little bit of guidance on the application process. So that's how to apply and how to kind of round out that application. And then we'll leave a little bit of time at the end for any more questions that haven't popped up and been answered during the presentation. Okay, so as ever, feel free to ask questions as we go. We'll also have some dedicated time at the end for Q&A. So if your question doesn't get picked up straight away, don't worry, we have dedicated time for Q&A at the end as well. Right, so so a little bit about our mission. Basically, the purpose of these courses is to provide an enriching academic experience to eager students. We provide tailored courses designed for various age groups from 9 all the way to 24. And of course, each age group is tailored towards that age group. And the idea is that we provide meaningful academic engagement for interested young minds who are exploring either new subjects or looking to enrich their existing curricula and develop a kind of academic and cultural appreciation in the fantastic contexts that we're lucky to work in. That is in the historic colleges of the University of Oxford, the historic colleges of the University of Cambridge, and this year for our juniors in two exciting new locations, Harrow and Winchester, two of England's most famous boarding schools, which have produced their fair share of Prime Minister's Nobel Prize winners, elite athletes, and the like. And this is something which we kind of aim to do through for a couple of reasons. The foundation of Oxford Summer Courses back in 2010. So we're celebrating our 13th birthday this year, which is, I think, quite a milestone, having also weathered, as we all have, the last few years of let's say, global complexities. Oxford Summer Courses was founded when two school friends, Harry and Rob, graduated from Oxford together, and like me, they were profoundly moved by the experience, and also very, very cognizant of quite how special an experience it is, and quite how limited it is in who gets to experience it. So what they wanted to do was provide a service for interested students to get a real taste of what it was like to study at Oxford. Now, initially, because their experience was in Oxford, our courses began all based in Oxford, and over the time they spoke to people at Cambridge and decided that there was a kind of real compatibility of mission, real compatibility of teaching style, real compatibility of experience. They're both collegiate universities, that is, a university made up of lots of different colleges, each with their own unique identity, and with a unique teaching style on the global scale, which is the tutorial or supervision system, small group teaching tailored towards students' individual needs. And the aim of our courses then is to open up that experience to as many students as possible. And curiosity doesn't begin at 13. So this is where the juniors courses came in. We had a lot of interest and inquiries about courses for younger students, and the response to that was our juniors program, which balances the younger students who we're working with and their particular educational needs with that same driving curiosity and the opportunity to study subjects beyond their usual curriculum, or to expand on their knowledge with leading experts in those subject areas, to treat those young curious minds with seriousness and give them a space to learn and grow in an exceptional educational capacity. Next slide, please, Simon. Thank you. So I've just mentioned our juniors course, and this is what I'm talking about. As I said, this year we are delighted to be working with two very exciting locations. That is Harrow School and Winchester College. Now, Harrow School has, through the popularity of our juniors courses, already been largely booked out. There may be a couple of waiting list places there, but for now, all of our new admissions for our 9 to 12 courses will be going to Winchester College, a beautiful medieval school, one of the oldest in England. The buildings and the site there are quite stunning. I gave a lecture there once back in 2015, I think it was, and it's a gorgeous campus, leafy green, in the cathedral city of Winchester, which is a beautiful medieval, small medieval city. It feels a little bit like a potted Oxford, in that you've got kind of historic architecture, a real sense of also, though, history and cultural buzz around the place. A very musical town. The cathedral is very famous for its choir, and it's a really special place. And only a 50-minute train ride from London, so very accessible. It's in fact quicker than getting to Oxford from London, so it's very convenient for anybody who's planning to travel with their children. And of course, we provide those airport transfer services to our sites. If you've got any questions about those locations, please feel free to drop them in the chat, and we'll circle back to those. But these are two, as I say, exceptional schools which combine historic buildings with cutting edge facilities in terms of what we can offer in terms of like teaching rooms, activities, and so on and so forth. So a real flavour of kind of historical English education with the best facilities available. So these subjects last for 1 week. We offer 1 week courses for our juniors, but of course, if students wish to study more than one subject, we do welcome applications for multiple weeks, and we provide additional activities over the link weekend. So any student joining us for more than 1 week who wants to, say, explore law and history, or science and technology can do both of those things over the course of their visit, and we'll kind of provide linking activities in the weekend. But each standard course is 1 week long. Again, our maximum class size here is 15, so small group teaching led by a subject expert who will be able to tailor everything that's going on in the classroom to the students in that classroom. So it's responsive, it's dynamic, it's not someone standing at the front of a classroom of 30 students telling them things. It's very much a discussion. Our students are very much encouraged to participate fully in their education. Our prices, as you can see, are listed there for a shared room or a private room. All rooms will share bathroom facilities, as is standard in an English boarding school. Students will be roomed separately by gender in corridors and different corridors in the school. And of course, all of our safeguarding policies are incredibly rigorous, and we have on-site staff who will be supervising students for the entire time. And so we offer at least 8 subjects every year, which range from science and technology to law, history, and creative writing through our Story Explorers program. So this is something that can really go beyond what your children are currently studying in school, or it can be something that enriches the subjects they're already fascinated by. For example, with our Maths Explorers course. But if they're already getting a flavor, because I know at that age I already had a sense of what I wanted to be doing when I was growing up, then there are options for studying subjects like law and medicine, and really getting an introduction to what those subjects might be like in the longer run. Thanks, Simon. So, as we said, for our other courses, for our older courses, 13 to 15, 16 to 17, and 18 to 24, and we do bracket them off into those groups because we find that each of those age groups has slightly different learning requirements and is at slightly different kind of life stages in terms of what they want from cultural and social activities as well. We host in 2 locations. The first is Oxford, as our name would suggest, and we are working with 3 of the historic colleges of the university, and in fact, courses have been so popular this year that we're currently discussing with another college about the possibility of expanding our accommodation offerings so that we'll be able to provide a little bit more capacity, a couple more courses over this coming summer. So watch this space. At the moment, we're working with Lady Margaret Hall, Somerville College, which is where I did my master's and where I worked as a research fellow for 3 years, and Worcester College, where I actually sang in the chapel choir. So I've had very first-hand experiences of all of these locations. Somerville and Lady Margaret Hall were founded in the 19th century as the first colleges in the University of Oxford to admit women as students, and so have a very important place in Oxford's educational history. They're both beautiful Georgian and Victorian buildings, and they have lovely kind of green spaces, LMH being on the edge of the University Park, and Somerville being a little more central, but having a gorgeous central quad, which is lovely. Worcester College then is an older foundation. The original buildings on the site are medieval. The college a little bit newer than that, only early modern. And the grounds there include an iconic lake and beautiful gardens. All 3 of them are wonderful sites, centrally located, an easy walk from Oxford city centre. And the key thing about the experience that we offer in all of these places is that it is designed to mirror the kind of the specific experience of studying at Oxford and then later at Cambridge, as we'll talk about in a little bit. The key thing with all of these courses is that students live and study on site. So if you're a student at the University of Oxford or the University of Cambridge, your college, which is where you live, where your accommodation is also the place where you do your teaching. It's the center of your social, academic life. And that's what our courses are designed to give a taste of over the 2-week period. Can I grab the next slide, please, Simon? Thank you. So, as you see, over the years we've worked with 9 different colleges, and at the moment we're working with those 3. Accommodation is mostly for our younger students in twin rooms. Ensuite rooms are available. Private ensuite rooms are available for our 16 to 24-year-olds. And we find that so our students will room together. Our younger students will room together, and our 16 and other students have the option to room together or opt for the private ensuite. And then with shared bathroom facilities, as I said, which is again standard for this college accommodation. So they are already getting an authentic experience of Oxford college life. Everything very central. I feel like I've slightly preempted this slide by getting over enthusiastic about talking about the colleges. But if you have any more questions, please do drop them in that Q&A, and I think we can probably move forward to the next slide. Thanks, Simon. So the subjects that we offer over 40 subjects, ranging from medicine, law, biotech, neuroscience, to history, creative writing, human science, and natural sciences, psychology, and social and other social sciences courses. So it really does run the gamut of subjects for anybody who is interested in. For anyone who's interested in a real range of subject matter, and crucially, they're all taught by subject experts. As I mentioned before, this means that we have adaptive courses. We respond. Students fill in a pre-course assessment form, which allows us to tailor the course to our student needs. And those small class sizes, maximum class size of 8 students, really means that you get a dynamic, active form of education where there's a real discussion between the lecturer, the tutor, and the students. And then for our older students, 16 and up, we supplement those seminars with tutorials. And we found that for the 13 to 15s, the tutorials aren't as effective a mode of teaching. But for the 16 and up, they really do provide an extra benefit. And that's where they are producing pieces of independent work, which are then being read, marked, and responded to by a tutor in a 2-on-1 session. So 2 students to 1 tutor. So everyone gets really detailed feedback, and a real opportunity to learn and grow academically, and have a lively discussion with a small number of students who are like-minded. People who are also there because they are enthusiastic and care about the course, and because they are interested in learning more. And so there are really vibrant intellectual spaces, and also spaces where students make great friends with like-minded individuals. I've been talking to alumni recently, and one of the kind of resounding things that comes back is that students really made profound connections, and are still in touch with other students from their courses over a year later. And it's a really lovely thing to see this kind of community of our alumni growing every year. Thanks, Simon. I think I can pass on to the next slide. So, Cambridge, the course structure is the same. We offer a slightly different range of courses to reflect the fact that there is a slightly different mode of teaching in Cambridge. Still that small group teaching, still those tutorials, which in Cambridge are called supervisions, and still that real sense of a small group of like-minded individuals coming together for a meaningful discussion and meaningful academic growth. Cambridge, another beautiful beautiful town, kind of medieval market town, and again we work with several of their historic colleges. This year, Sydney, Sussex, Hughes Hall, and sorry, Simon, could you remind me of the third college?
Fitzwilliam.
Thank you very much. Which blend historic buildings and modern facilities. All of them easy access to Cambridge town centre. And again, that same experience as in Cambridge as in Oxford of studying and living in a bigger college community. all our students are grouped together in the colleges by age group. So we have our 13 to 15s college, our 16 to 17 college, and our 18 to 24 college. And that means that not only are they spending time with fellow students on their course, their social time and cultural activities will be spent with other students of the same age on a variety of courses, which really does reflect the university experience and the college experience in Oxford and Cambridge of getting to know people who are curious and driven in all sorts of students, in all sorts of subjects. So, for example, when I was an undergraduate, I remember some of the best conversations I had. I was studying English and Italian, but I'd have amazing conversations with physicists and philosophers and historians because you're all thrown together and you're all curious. And that's one of the great boons, one of the great benefits of that kind of college style system that we employ for our summer courses. Cambridge, although I'm supposed to have a deep-seated rivalry with it as an Oxford graduate, I actually think is a beautiful city and has wonderful locations. And some of my best friends teach at Cambridge, so it would be remiss of me to hold a grudge. But it really is. It's a wonderful location. And of course, in terms of the kind of social and cultural activities, both Oxford and Cambridge are easily accessible from London. We run trips to other sites of historic interest, which are nearby. They both have wonderful university museums and art galleries. And crucially, they both have punting. There is some disagreement about which end of the boat you're supposed to row from, but Oxford and Cambridge both offer opportunities to explore their waterways in this kind of beautiful traditional boats. Thanks, Simon. Can we move on there? Jasmine, I see you've got a question there about language. Simon's going to hop on there with the specifics. We don't require students to take a language test, but we do recommend around a B2 level of language, a good level of English, so that they can keep up with the course, which is taught entirely in English. Now, one thing I found talking to students and talking to parents is that often students are more nervous about their level of language than they should be. So I've had students who were really worried about the language level before applying. I've had a chat with them and it's been very evident to me that they are plenty capable. So we always we always take the time to have a chat with our prospective students so that we can just double check and also reassure them when, as very often happens, their language is often exceptional, and they're just very worried about using it. And we do find then with students who are a little bit nervous about the language that when they come to us and they spend 2 weeks in total immersion, the common language is English, the teaching language is English, that they come away much more confident in their linguistic abilities as well. So it's a nice kind of an added bonus. Even though it's not a language course, it really does help boost their language. And I say this as somebody who obviously learnt a foreign language. I did my my degree and my PhD in Italian, and I always found that kind of that bundle of nerves before going to Italy, and then by the time I come back from Italy, feeling much more confident, much more comfortable in using the language on a daily basis. So this is true of both Oxford and Cambridge, that each college has its own character, and we embrace that character in introducing our students to those spaces, and we really encourage them to kind of engage in an experience of college life, which involves breakfast together in the dining hall. It involves a formal dinner, what's called a formal dinner or a banquet on the Friday night of each week, where they get to experience all the kind of the ceremony of an Oxford and Cambridge dining hall, and then we introduce them to the city through evening meals in a number of restaurants around the town, so they get a feel for city life as well as college life. Should we move on to the next one, Simon? Brilliant. So again, these are 2-week courses. Wide range of subjects. As you see, slight differences in the courses we offer. We offer natural sciences, for example, which is Cambridge's equivalent or method of teaching a kind of combined discipline of sciences that relate to the natural world. So aspects of chemistry, biology, biochemistry. and this is very much part of Cambridge's educational tradition, and we respect the kind of traditions of the sites we're working at. And we've introduced natural sciences as part of our science programming in Cambridge. But otherwise, a lot of the same courses are available on both sites, and you can just browse the subjects tab on our website to find out more information about what's available in each place. The teaching model in both places is the same, those small class sizes with additional tutorials for our older students, which is one thing that Oxford and Cambridge share in common across there. There's a question there from anonymous attendee. Hello, anonymous attendee. So the letter of recommendation is demonstrates and gives the student a frame of reference for their application. Now, the key thing that our courses offer when students are applying to university is what we call in university admissions evidence of motivation. So when I was conducting student interviews and assessing applications at Oxford, one of the categories that we always looked at was called motivation, and that means we're looking for a clear drive from the student to study this subject specifically. And if a student has taken extracurricular courses over the course of their school time before applying, then that very clearly demonstrates motivation for the subject, because the personal statement is a really important part of that application process. It's also why we make sure we have a kind of personal statement as a key part of our application process, because we want to kind of give them an experience of writing that kind of document. So when applying in the UK, and obviously it's slightly different in an international context, and I'll come back to that in just a second. That personal statement is where you would say, for example, I'm very interested in physics. I saw there was a question about physics there, so I thought I'd just reference physics. And in addition to all my studies at school, I took extracurricular courses to explore, and then list the subjects you explored, for example. And that would be a way that would be a method of kind of integrating that would be how you'd integrate the kind of summer course into an application to make it more compelling. In terms of international applications, and indeed kind of future oriented questions, let's say, the next steps, in our courses, we offer a workshop on the kind of the next step and on student futures, both academic and career oriented, as part of our courses. So we have the academic courses, but then we also have these workshops on where to go next and how to kind of how to best put the things they've learned and put the course into practice in their educational and later on career lives. So that's very much something we considered and is part of our program. So if we move on to the next slide, please, Simon. Thank you. Our third location for some of our older students, for our 16 to 17-year-olds, is UCL, University College London, which is one of the leading universities in the country. It's part of what's known as the Russell Group, an elite group of research-led universities, research and renowned for their teaching excellence in the UK. Historic, again, that kind of unique blend of historic buildings and cutting edge teaching facilities, and we offer a number of courses in London itself. We accommodate the students nearby, and of course from UCL, you're very close to places like the British Museum and other kind of major sites of cultural interest in London. So this provides a slightly different experience. It's that kind of big city buzz for students who want to explore the capital, and students who are considering maybe a future study or career or life in London. So it offers a slightly different context, something more. Obviously, being in London, which is a major city, is a different experience to being in Oxford and Cambridge, which are both kind of smaller. but it's an experience steeped in the kind of the varied history and kind of cultural variety of London, and one in which they get to explore a range of courses in a slightly different geographical and architectural context, but again, still prioritizing. If we could hop onto the next slide, Simon, still prioritizing that essential factor of all of our teaching, which is those small group classes, which really allow for intensive, intensive and responsive teaching for all of our students, led by subject experts. As you can see, we offer a slightly different range of subjects here, and that is to reflect the expertise and the traditions of UCL. So as you can see, the kind of theme I keep coming back to is that in each of these places, what we're doing is we are providing a summer course which reflects the experience of studying in those places, the traditions of studying in those places, the academic cultures of those places, so that students get a really authentic experience of those university contexts, which can help inform their academic decisions about whether they want to come and study in those places in the future, and also give them a much kind of richer and more meaningful experience than a summer course where they rock up, are put in an annex somewhere on the outskirts of Oxford, and then end up in a large class of 30 other students. Unfortunately, I say this from experience, having in a past life for my sins taught with another provider that didn't prioritize the small group experience. I shan't name any names, but it's really crucial to us that small group teaching is at the heart of everything we do, because it really allows the students to flourish. And then the next slide, please, Simon. So here, and we have example timetables for all of our other age groups available, and if anyone would like those, we can send them on to you. But this just gives you a sense of what the shape of a week might look like for our students. As I mentioned before, we split the time, we balance the time between that kind of intensive academic work and also time to explore the place that they're staying and the kind of cultural and the cultural and historical aspects of the UK. So everyone arrives on the first Sunday of the course, and that's when we have our kind of orientation activities and experience and introductions, and people get to meet everyone, and we have a kind of welcome event. So really, we give people plenty of time to settle in and get to know each other before the course starts in earnest on the Monday. Each day is divided up into a mixture of subject seminars, which are those small group teaching sessions, and a mixture of trips and activities. So those might include punting, those might include museum visits, those might include trips out of town to major sites of historical and cultural interest. And we also have, as you can see in here, these kind of pale salmon blocks: seminar preparation, tutorial preparation. Crucially, we're looking to give students a university style experience of studying these subjects, and that means we set aside specific time for independent study and preparation. So they're given prompts and they're given tasks by their tutors, and then we set aside specific time in the timetable for them to work on those questions, it might be a history essay, it might be an economics problem sheet, it might be an analysis, and they bring those back to their seminars and bring those back to their tutorials, where they're discussed and become part of the in-depth class discussion. So we are asking our students to engage actively with their learning experience, and then they're getting expert feedback on their work. So they are getting specific and detailed responses to the work that they're doing outside the seminar and outside the tutorial, as well as inside the classroom. And that level of giving them some space to take ownership of their educational journey, and then provide the specific feedback and framework for that, is a crucial part of what we do with our kind of teaching experience. As you can see, we have various moments blocked out for cultural activities, for free time, for a day trip. So on our 2-week courses, that day trip happens on the weekend. our 1 week course, that trip happens during the week. And that gives them the experience to go out and see a kind of significant cultural or historical site in the UK. So that could be, we've sent people to Windsor Castle, to Blenheim Palace. Some of our younger students have enjoyed trips to the Harry Potter studios. We've gone to London museums, to the Regency City of Bath, to all of these places of kind of historical and cultural interest, to give the students a wider experience of the UK than just the location in which they're studying in. So they really do get to experience a kind of a rounded experience of studying in these institutions and in this kind of cultural and geographical context. Thanks, Simon. Should we move on to the next one? So I mentioned our cultural activities and our day trips, and here are just some of the examples of things that we've done in the past. The museum tours and so on and so forth are often within the cities themselves. So we can have these shorter excursions built into our timetable. Both Oxford and Cambridge have wonderful parks and gardens, museums and art galleries. There are all sorts of wonderful cultural activities. Ghost tours, which are not as spooky as they sound, are in fact fascinating and very entertaining historical tours of the city, built around the myths and legends that have grown up in these medieval, in these kind of ancient cities. And you can see in the top picture the punting I mentioned, and I can tell you from the picture that is in Cambridge, because he's standing at the wrong end of the boat, as far as I'm concerned. So when you punt, there's a flat end and there's a dipped end, and in Oxford you punt from the dipped end, and in Cambridge you punt from the flat end. And it will forever be a point of contention. But anyway, so that's a picture of our students punting in Cambridge, and we offer those activities like that in both locations. But that just gives you an idea of some of the kind of fun bits and bobs that the students get to do in their downtime, so that they are expected to turn up, take their academics seriously, but we also make sure that they have time to relax, get to know other students, get to know the kind of broader culture of the sites. And as I mentioned, those Friday night banquet dinners, the formal halls, mark the end of each week, and in the second week, we have a kind of little graduation ceremony to mark the end of their course, to mark their achievements in the 2 weeks they've been with us, and to celebrate that in the course of that formal dinner. Thanks, Simon. Shall we? I've talked a lot about teaching as we've gone along, because about our teaching method as I've gone along, because it is so crucial. It is it's the thing that all of this is built around. Harry and Rob founded Oxford Summer Courses to introduce these kind of dynamic teaching experiences to a wider group of students, and that's our real focus with our juniors. That involves those still small group classes of 15, very interactive classrooms, task and project-based learning. So they're not just passively being told things, they are asked to engage and make things. So for example, in our Technology Explorers course, they engage in programming and design a game, as is a common activity, a common project activity. So it's very much interactive, it's very much dynamic. We use group work, problem solving, a mixture of we give them space for independent study as well, because we found that the students that come are highly motivated, and we want to give them space to explore those subjects themselves, to give them space to let their curiosity run wild, and to respect the fact that these are young minds, but young, intelligent, curious minds who are committed to really exploring these subjects in depth. And we're always delighted to see how driven these students are when they come to us. They really do want to come away having kind of gained skills and knowledge, and that's what we do. And if we can move on to the next slide. Thank you, Simon. I think I've covered a lot of this already as we've gone along, but just to recap, we are deeply committed to our small class sizes and to our tutorial methods for our older students. and this allows for these kind of very small group, eight person classes, where the students are genuinely involved in the conversation. There's no passivity here. Students are part of their own learning. They are helping each other. Develop and experience these subjects together, being led by our expert tutors, who are experts in academia, in industry where relevant, and are the majority of them being Oxford and Cambridge academics and graduates. Some of them also being drawn from other leading UK universities, where we because we recruit by specialism and quality of tutor. So we want to make sure we've got the best possible experts teaching our courses, and leading our students in their educational journey. So that's really important for us. We move on to the next one, Simon. Thank you. Wonderful. So I think this is actually relevant to a couple of the questions that have just come up in the Q&A, which is why come and study with us? Why come and study this summer? And as I mentioned, this idea of preparation for studying in a top university setting is an important one. They can experience perhaps new subjects that they're thinking about studying at university but aren't quite sure of. They can enrich their experience of the subjects they're already studying and know they want to study at university. And also they get, as I said, very specific feedback and very specific engagement with their work, so that they are trained in kind of critical thinking, academic rigor, all of those skills which strengthen their academic profile, and will prepare them for a writing, for a compelling university application, with a real sense of their, how they want to engage with the subject, how they can best flourish in that subject in a higher education setting, which will inform their decision making, but also give them the material to write a really compelling application, and to impress assessing tutors. And there is, of course, the academic benefit. They come away with new perspectives on a subject, new passion for the material that they've studied. One of our students that I spoke to, one of our alumni that I spoke to recently, who had attended a history course, said that it was such a profound experience that she had been not sure what she wanted to study at university, but the course kind of absolutely fixed her that history was the thing for her, that it was the thing that kind of made her tick, because she'd had such a kind of different and meaningful educational experience at our summer course. Another student who came and studied creative writing with us has now published a number of pamphlets, is editing a student newspaper, and has had work published. So we've had students who have found this a real springboard for their academic and, in some cases, career development. So I also saw a couple of the questions come up around credits, course credits. Now, our courses aren't credit bearing themselves, but a large and growing number of institutions are acknowledging our courses as credit worthy. So what we can do is, if students are interested in obtaining credits for our courses, we can provide the supporting information which they can then submit to their universities and colleges, who can assess them. And as I said, a growing number of institutions are acknowledging these courses as credit bearing, because our teaching is rigorous, our assessment processes are rigorous, and our teaching methods are university level and university quality. So that we're seeing more and more of our students being recognized as credit bearing by institutions. I've talked about this idea of independence and the experience of living away from home, staying away from home, and studying in a university style environment or a boarding school style environment for our junior students, and experiencing a different cultural context. And that's both for our international students, because last year we had 120 different nationalities represented in our courses, It's both true of our international students who are coming to experience English culture for the first time, and for students who might be familiar with English and British culture for one reason or another, meeting a truly international student cohort and experiencing that kind of cultural exchange, that rich cultural exchange that that comes in an international university setting. So by providing an international summer course setting, we really prepare students for that idea of meeting and working with and getting to know students from all over the world, from different cultural and educational settings, and enriching each other's educational and cultural experiences. And finally, I mentioned that balance between work and play, that we have we prioritize, making sure they have academic rigor and also that kind of the fun activities and social time, so they can meet other students and form those lasting friendships, which we've seen time and time again, students who stayed in touch, and in fact students who've come back to us with friends they who have re-enrolled and planned to do the same course or come at the same time as friends they've made in previous years, which is a really kind of lovely kind of community that we see building between our alumni, a real international community of alumni who are kind of building those international networks and friendships through our courses. Yes, and so as I mentioned, we have the there's the kind of broader question of why study and the question of why study with us. Now, I kind of think these are the same question, because if you want that kind of authentic experience of a kind of university style learning, then we are unique. We're unique as a provider in providing that small group teaching experience. We are accredited so that we can provide support letters for students coming to study with us on short-term study visas. We're an accredited education provider. We have expert tutors teaching in these kind of profoundly in these unique teaching styles. The range of subjects that we offer is vast and suits any interest or any kind of potential career plan or educational plan. We hire from Oxford graduates and Oxford and Cambridge graduates and academics, people like myself who have kind of direct experience of working and teaching and learning in those centres, so can provide a kind of a truly authentic experience of those learning environments, and then the kind of, when it comes down to the nitty gritty of the logistics, our fees include obviously all accommodation, all tuition, what we call the Oxford Summer Courses Foundations, which is a pre-course digital platform which allows students to kind of get to know and gain insights into what their experience will be like, so they're prepared before they arrive, so they're not coming in cold. They have a kind of bit of an introduction. An introduction to the general kind of experience of what they can expect when they come to us. Our course fees include travel insurance, health insurance, airport transfers from Heathrow, for all of those aspects, so that you don't need to worry about any of those things when you're booking with us. And we're also we're deeply conscious of our place in the world as a kind of as a company that wants to do good educationally, but also ecologically. So we're a certified carbon neutral company, and we also so we take our kind of environmental responsibilities and our social responsibilities very, very seriously, and crucially, and this is a question we have quite a lot. Oxford and Cambridge don't offer their own summer courses. We offer an authentic experience of the Oxford and Cambridge university experience, because of our teaching style, because of the tutors we hire, because of the locations we work in, and our general and the kind of approach to that student academic, social and the integration between the student academic, cultural and social experience that is unique to Oxford and Cambridge college life. So this is a little bit more impact, a little bit more information on our kind of the importance of sustainability to us as a company. So we have, we are very aware of the ways in which being an international education company has a global impact, and therefore we actively engage in a carbon neutral scheme through the climate impact partners who offset our kind of footprint, as it were, through financing low carbon sustainable development projects, and so we're not only are we offsetting and offsetting our environmental impact, we're also having a kind of positive global impact through those development projects, because we're part of a kind of global society and a global culture, and we feel it's really important to give back to that, to mitigate the environmental impacts, but also to give back to that kind of that global society as a whole. And I think we've a couple more slides. So here are a couple of examples of some of the comments we've had from our students and their parents. And as I said, I was recently, and you can find more of these on our website. And as I said, I was recently calling around alumni, and it was a real pleasure hearing from them about their positive experiences, the friendships they've made, and the contacts they've made over the course of their experience. One of our former students described it as literally the best 2 weeks of my life, which was truly a lovely thing to hear when you're calling someone up to see how they're doing 6 months after their course. So it's our students have a really positive experience, both academically and in terms of the kind of the friendships and bonds they make. So I've gone through these a little bit, but this is just a reminder of the things that are included in our courses. So it's all of our teaching, accommodation and breakfast, evening meals, the Friday banquets, the graduation ceremony and photographs, the visits and excursions, the medical insurance, travel insurance, airport transfers. And for our younger students, lunch is provided as well. We leave our older students to explore some of the local cafes and delis for their lunch options. Okay, so I know a number of you will be coming to this information session because you've already applied, but if you want to. If you haven't yet had the opportunity to apply, you can visit our website there, oxfordsummercourses.com, and there's an apply button in the top right corner. Hit that button, and then you can then filter by student age and course, and fill in the application form. As I mentioned, we ask for a good grasp of the English language. We don't ask for certification, but we do want to make sure that everyone gets the most out of our courses. One of the great places to demonstrate that is through our personal statement on the application form, which gives you a space to explain why you want to apply, why you want to study our courses, and why your application should be considered. So that's where you can outline your motivations for the course, your motivations for studying in the UK, and all those kinds of things, and we'll take that into consideration when we're assessing all applications. So do spend a bit of time on that. It's an important part of the application, and it gives us our first introduction to you as a student, or your child as a student, and that's kind of a key bit of the application. So do spend some time looking at that. The application will let you apply for multiple courses, so you can apply for multiple courses in a row. So if you want to come and study more than one subject with us, you can do that. If you're interested in multiple courses but only want to study one course, you can fill out multiple courses on your application, and then through the admissions process, we'll have a chat with you and work out which course is best for you, and we can narrow that down after the application. So don't worry about applying for multiple courses when you only want to study one. We can narrow that down for you after the application has come in. We can help you narrow that down. And I will say, if you're applying for multiple courses, you will see the fee total for all of those courses in correspondence. Don't worry. If you're planning to narrow it down to one course, that fee total will obviously drop down to the fee total for one course. I had a chat with one parent who was a little concerned when she saw the balance turn up after she'd applied for 3 courses, because she wanted to discuss them. So just be aware that if you apply for multiple courses and you're only planning to take one, you'll initially see the fee balance in our correspondences for all of those courses, and then it'll come down to the single course fee once we've had a chance to narrow down your options. Speaking of which, so in terms of securing your place, once you've applied and the place is accepted, and once an application is accepted, then a deposit will be due to reserve that place, and that deposit is non-refundable, because that's how we secure our spaces and make sure that we have enough locations for all our booked students. But if the student is unable to attend, we can offer that as course credits towards next year, which can also be transferred among friends and family, so that that money doesn't disappear into the ether. It's still available for you to redeem against our courses in the future. The balance is then due 90 days before the start of the course. I saw a couple of questions come up about deadlines. While our application deadline is rolling, we're approaching that 90-day mark. And also we are running out of places. So the sooner the better is the answer for deadlines. Then once you've paid that deposit to a reserve, then we can go on to the balance payment 90 days before the course start date, and that confirms the place. And then the next step is you come and join us in the summer. And of course, between that, between the application being accepted and you reserving a place and the start of your course, we send out all the necessary information for travel, visas, advice on what to bring, advice on what to pack, all those kinds of things. Okay, so I realize as I've been answering some questions as we go along, I've run a little bit long. So we still have time for a couple of questions if anyone wants to use the Q&A now for questions. I see Simon's been answering them as well as we go. And if you have any additional questions after this session, then you can either just use the application function on our website, and then myself or one of our other admissions advisors will get back to you to assist with the application. Alternatively, you can email us on info@oxfordsummercourses.com with any questions, and again, myself or one of our other admissions advisors will pick up your email and respond as soon as we can. So, as I said, I've run a little bit long, but we'll still take questions because I'm very much here to answer your questions. We're very much here to answer your questions. So if there's anything anybody else would like to know that we haven't covered, then please fire away in the Q&A.
Nothing coming in at the moment, I think. Hopefully it's very comprehensive. Yeah, as David said, we will be sending so you do need to bring a bit of just kind of travel money, particularly if you're in the 16, 17 or 18, 24 age groups, you also need some money for lunch. But yeah, we recommend a lot of it's included, like the accommodations included, the trips and transport from trips is all included. For juniors, all meals are included, so just a little bit of spending money.
Yeah, they will be going on excursions and so on. So if they want to get souvenirs or send postcards home, which I'm sure will be their priority, then a little bit of spending money, a bit of pocket money is always a good idea. So we are actively pursuing additional capacity to try and open some more courses where the interest is there. We are limited by what is available in the colleges, but we are actively pursuing additional capacity because certain dates and certain age groups have been remarkably popular this year and filled up very quickly. So we are actively exploring that at the moment. That was in response to Priscilla. Donna, it really depends on whether she wants to be based in a big city or based in a historic university town. So in either case, she'll be getting excursions to other places, like the cultural enrichment, the teaching enrichment. Oxford, you get that. You get the kind of the older buildings, the kind of the river, the historic town centre, and all these kinds of things. In London, you get the kind of big city lights, the more modern, it's modern accommodation blocks. It's a more urban and kind of big city experience. So I think that's really a case of preference, and then also course preference, because obviously some courses are only offered in London, some courses are only offered in Oxford. So I would always be driven by the courses she's most curious in. I'd say always pick the course because when there's curiosity, there's drive, and they're going to get the most out of it. I'd always say be course led, and every location has a lot to offer. So if they're on the right course for them, then they will get a lot out of the location as well. It's just a slightly different experience. They're both very, very rich in their own ways. So I'd say, course led first and foremost. But we're also happy to talk about that. Over you can always drop us an email. We're happy to arrange a call with one of our advisors to chat to your daughter about what her priorities are and try and place her in the right place.
Great. I think that's everything. As David said, do email info@oxfordsummercourses.com with any questions. But thanks so much, David, for your great presentation, and we hope to see some of you on the course this summer.
Yeah, thanks to everyone for coming.
Yep, thanks very much
For your questions.